Welcome to Olmsted Overheard, a new space for real conversations about what's happening in and around Olmsted Falls, Ohio. I'm your host, Mark McCausland, and this show is all about cutting through the noise and tuning into what actually matters to the people who live here. My vision for this podcast is that in each episode we'll dig into issues, updates, decisions that are shaping our community, from who's running for office to how city departments work behind the scenes, to local debates that you might see on your social feed. Today we're starting strong with a conversation with a candidate for city council. But I hope this is just the beginning. I want to continue with interviews with other city officials or candidates. I want to deep dive into how things work, like, for example, what the process is for a residential development to get approved. And I want to break down the issues that might keep coming up in town halls or on the local forums. I'm doing this because I see a real gap in local understanding of how things work. This isn't about the big political issues facing our nation. It's about what's going on right here in our town. It's about real talk, local transparency, and giving you the context and clarity to be more informed about the place you call home. So let's get into it. This is Olmsted Overheard. Here we are for my inaugural podcast episode, and I thought what better way to kick off my podcast about the goings-on in Olmsted Falls than to have an interview, so to speak, with I don't even know if as of right now you've announced your candidacy or anything like that.
No, not officially.
Not officially.
Just
so
word of mouth at this point.
Maybe this will be breaking news when
it probably
publish it. So breaking news then. Jacklyn Bartkowski is running for city council. My name is Mark McCausland, and I'm trying to start a podcast about the goings-on in Olmsted Falls. A little bit of our background here. We'll take turns here. I've lived in Olmsted Falls for about 6 years, and I've gotten involved in the community in a couple of different ways. I'm involved with the Cub Scout Pack, and I've been on the Parks and Recreation Board in a volunteer capacity for about 3 to 3.5 years now. And I have a dream of just getting more people informed about what's going on in the city. I see a lot of chatter out there, especially on the socials. And I always think to myself, man, I would love it if people had more information so that they could be better informed about what's going on. So I'm giving this a go. Jacklyn, I'll turn it over to you if you want to give a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've lived in Olmsted Falls for 12 years this spring. So my whole married life. And my husband, speaking of married, he teaches 6th grade at the middle school. And I have 3 kids that all are in Olmsted Falls schools, 5th grade and under. And I've been involved, I feel like, pretty deeply with the community from the start through school, since I've just been supporting Eric, my husband, through all those years of teaching. And then I've also been a part of and still am a part of the Key Communicators group with Dr. Lloyd and our school administration, which is a group that helps be a bridge between the community and the schools to make sure that accurate information is being exchanged and bringing awareness to the school administrators about concerns in the community. And then I've also been on Parks and Rec. I think this is
still your first year.
Still first year. Yeah, so not even a year. But it's been fun to dip my toe into civil service in that arena and kind of see how things start to run. Yeah, I also grew up in North Olmsted, so
not far.
One town away. Yeah, so I've been here my whole life. The best area.
It is a great area. We also moved here from North Olmsted. We lived there for about 5 years. Olmsted Falls is great. It's the best place I've lived.
Yeah.
I love it here. By the way, we should point out the logistics of Jacklyn's candidacy for council. Council is made up of representatives of certain wards in Olmsted Falls, and then there are 2, I think, at-large members. 3 at-large members? Okay. Yeah. And that, from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, you might be closer to it than me. If you are an at-large member, you're elected by the entire city of Olmsted Falls versus... Right. Anyone can vote for the at-large candidates. The ward-specific candidates are only voted for by the members of that ward. So Jacklyn here is running in Ward 2. Brief note, I hope to continue this podcast series, and I would love to interview other people in and around, city government and stuff like that. But I do know Jacklyn from college, right? Disclosure statement, right? Which in a lot of ways made it an easy first episode for me to reach out to somebody I knew, but worth pointing out, right? However, one of the things that led me to have this idea as well was when Jacklyn told me she was running for council. Initially, I was like, all right, I know Jacklyn. I trust Jacklyn. I'm totally going to vote for Jacklyn. And then I was like, but I don't actually know what Jacklyn thinks about how to run
Actually,
Olmsted Falls. Right. Like, I want to make my own informed decision, you know? If I was going to be having this conversation with you anyways, and I had this burgeoning idea, why not marry the two together?
Yeah.
So,
share it.
Disclosure out of the way.
Yeah, that's good.
Let's kick it off then. What led you to decide to run for city council?
So, I've always wanted to be more involved at a local level as far as just leadership in some way. I didn't necessarily have city council in mind from the start. I've always just since being involved with schools, I thought maybe there was a way through schools or through PTA or maybe school board after Eric is retired down the line or something like that, but nothing really felt right or felt like something that was manageable for me. It felt like something that I could do or could fit into my life. And just with the state of the country right now, I think it's pervasive that people feel like they don't know what to do. They want to make change, but they don't know how. And we're in such a critical time right now. There's so many different ways that we can go and make change. And then when with the mayoral election coming up, I know it is going to be probably like a hot race, right? There's going to be lots of decisions to be made. And I think we're at a really exciting time in Olmsted Falls for people to get involved, to be making some changes if they see changes that need to be made. And I just thought, if not now, when? Like, there's never going to be a perfect time. It's always probably going to be scary and hard to jump into something new. So why not now when there's so much that needs to be done? Yeah, I don't know. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of the mayoral race, if you don't know, dear listeners, we will, no matter what, no matter how it shakes out, we will have a different mayor in Olmsted Falls after the election this year. Mayor Graven has decided for personal reasons to not pursue re-election. Regardless of who wins between the candidates, we will have a new mayor. Sounds like you also are thinking, well, with the new look and feel of the government here in Olmsted Falls, why not be a part of that?
Yeah, absolutely. Seems like a good time.
So tell me what you think of Olmsted Falls.
Yeah, we both love it, right? I do really love it. I mean, growing up in North Olmsted, we were rivals. That was like the big
Eagles versus Bulldogs, right?
Rivalry. Yeah. So I actually didn't spend all that much time here growing up. So when we moved here, like I was kind of just getting to know the city for the first time. I love that I've come to see that there's such a sense of pride about the city. There's such a strong sense of the history of the town, and that our community really takes pride and values that we have such a deep history and preserving that history. I think that's very cool and unique. And I just think that it's a community that really steps up. If something were to happen, people come together, people really help each other. And there's people of all types here. We have people who rent, we have people who own, we have communities of older people, we have young families, we have kind of people all over the spectrum of every other demographic. And so I love that we get to experience that and we get to serve all kinds of different people. I love our schools, obviously. Like, I think that's really the heart of the community. There's so much that is centered around our schools, whether it's sports or theater or music or whatever. I think we're really lucky to have the district. I mean, I'm a little biased, but even coming just purely from a parent perspective, I think we're really lucky with the teachers and the administration and everything that we have. I mean, like any place, there's always like room to grow. There's always ways that we can improve. But I do think that there is motivation in our community to want to make change too. Just needs to get tapped into a little bit.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll share too that, I'm also a parent. My son is the same age as Jacklyn's daughter. They've been in a class together, right? And I've loved having the teachers. We love the school district as well. I don't think it's news to anybody that our school district is renowned for what it does. It is a go-to school district. People move here for the schools.
I want to say that in studies in the past couple of years that the district has done, that is either the top or definitely in the top 3 reasons why people choose to move here.
Yeah.
Why families choose to move here. It's for the schools. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Great community for sure. So speaking of things that maybe people might want to change. What do you think are the three biggest issues on people's minds when it comes to living in Olmsted Falls? My next question is, what do you think are the two biggest issues? But this one, what are the three biggest issues on the people of Olmsted Falls' minds?
Yeah. So I think something that's been a hot topic in the past really couple of years, but especially in the past few months, is the development of our city as far as like infrastructure, housing developments, things like that. So that's something that people are really concerned about. It's on their minds. It's on my mind. It's something that affects everybody. And I think people really want to make sure that we're growing our city, but keeping in mind that we need to balance the character that our town has with welcoming new people in. And also keeping in mind that we need to make sure we have solid infrastructure to be able to support new people coming in. So just making sure that we're growing in a balanced and sustainable way.
Without losing the character.
Without losing the character, right? So we're balancing like growing and welcoming people who want to live here with continuing to preserve the character and the charm that we all love about Olmsted Falls, and making sure that growth doesn't come at the sacrifice of current residents.
This is not to come across negative towards any other local communities, but I hear people or see people say often that they don't want Olmsted Falls to turn into, say, Strongsville or Pharma or something like that. And I think what they mean is we don't want development for development's sake. We don't want it to turn into shopping mall center or things like that. There is a small town feel to Olmsted Falls that I know and love because of how close my family lives to the heart of town and the Grand Pacific Junction and stuff. We walk there all the time. So those are some of the things that I think people don't want to lose.
I would agree with you. And I think there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like, we are a different city. I do believe that we can find a balance. We can find a way forward that we can still continue to be welcoming, open, desire to have people and families be part of our community while balancing those other things. Yeah, so I would say that's the first thing, and that's something that's definitely been in discussion recently.
Also, before you go to the second thing, just also in recent news in Olmsted Falls, right, there was the moratorium, a 6-month moratorium was put in on residential development. So we're in the middle of that.
Yeah.
And then shortly after that, council voted to disband the CRA, the Community Reinvestment Act, which is what everybody colloquially calls the tax abatements, right? So council did repeal that.
Yep.
And that's again, relatively new news. So those are some of the things that lots of people have been talking about.
That's at the forefront of a lot of people's mind. Yeah, so that is a conversation that needs to be, it's ongoing.
It is ongoing, right? We just had a couple of changes. Obviously, finding what's next is going to be, if you are elected, on your plate. Right?
Yeah. And to be clear, I don't necessarily have a strong opinion either way right now about how we should move forward. My main concern is making sure that people feel like they're part of the conversation and making sure that residents feel like they're being heard and that their opinions are being taken into account.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, even though council are the ones that are voting on a lot of things, we're representing the community as well. So that's my primary concern.
What's your next thought on one of the biggest issues on people's minds?
So this will actually lead well into the next thing that I was going to say, was just making sure that our local government is really transparent and just improving communication between the government and the residents. I just think that there can be a sense that people don't necessarily know what's going on, or they're not sure how decisions are made. And I don't think this is an issue that is exclusive to Olmsted Falls by any means. I think it's something that you would find probably in most suburb cities, at least, like a lot of cities. But I think there's definitely ways that that people in leadership can make it easier, more accessible, and more welcoming for people to be part of those conversations. And even if they don't necessarily want to take an active part, to be able to just understand what's going on. How do things work? I think there could be this perception of government as a whole that we don't really know what goes on in the room where it happens, right?
And we don't.
No.
I mean, speaking personally, I have been on Parks and Recreation Board for 3+ years, and I couldn't tell you all the inner workings of local government.
No, absolutely.
I've seen bits and pieces, but it's still like this shadow box almost, where I don't know what goes on.
Yeah.
And I can relate to wanting that transparency or more outward communication from that to better inform me personally.
Yeah, because I think that most people want to be involved and they want to know what's going on and they want to be a part of how decisions are made and they want to be informed. But it's a responsibility of government leaders to make sure that there are low barriers to getting information, to being a part of the conversation as you want to be and as you're able to be. So just being transparent and communicating a lot more on the side of the local government. I think that's something that people are concerned about.
All right, so to recap.
Yeah.
First issue, development of our town.
Yes.
And that includes obviously the residential developments, but just how do we smartly, sustainably grow and maintain what everybody loves about the town. Issue 2 is you see that there's a barrier to entry, so to speak, on information about the inner workings of our town. People don't know what's going on or they don't know how decisions are being made. And that's something you've observed.
Yeah. So the third thing is really closely related to that second thing, right? I mentioned there being barriers to people being involved. So a little bit more specifically to that, I think that it's really important that all forms of government, they don't just say that they want to be inclusive, be welcoming, be accessible, but that they actually take the actions to do it. And so in this case, I'm not just speaking about information and government decision making, but all of our programming as a city. It's really important to me that we make sure that every single person in the community feels like they're welcome and they feel like they are included and that their government sees them and represents them. So even just having more events or programming that is aimed at the community as a whole. So not even necessarily like just for families or just for whatever, and not even just general programming, but specifically like celebrating different groups of people or so, you know what I mean? Not just saying like everybody's welcome here, but actually taking the steps to make everyone feel and know that they're welcome here. And I think those steps can go a long way to creating a sense of community. And when people feel like they're part of the community and they're valued and they're wanted, then they're going to be more motivated to take part in the decision making because they own it. They're part of our city. And I know that just sort of feels a lot like the second point, but just more broadly, right? Like not just as it is in relation to getting information out about the workings of the city, but just looking at the city entity as truly being a force that shows everyone like you're welcome here. We want you here, you're represented here.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Okay.
Yeah. So those are the 3 items that you would say are on people's minds, right? Now, what about you? And there might be overlap. So we might be repeating ourselves here. But what are the 2 most important issues to Jacklyn Bartkowski when it comes to Olmsted Falls?
The first one would be, these are sort of like more practical steps, kind of speaking to what the 3 points that I just made. So I think just really like removing a lot of those barriers to participation, specifically around city council and around council meetings, because that is where so much dialogue happens as far as decision making. And that is like such an opportunity for people to be able to get face to face with their representatives and things like that. But I think even like small changes, making sure that recordings of meetings are uploaded to the website in a timely fashion, and also that they have subtitles included or transcripts included of meetings. Since people digest information in all kinds of different ways, people have all sorts of different ability levels to be able to attend or not attend. I think that's like a very small, I mean, it seems small, but it can make a big difference. And I understand that there's like labor and effort that could go into that. And I'd be more than willing to help problem solve and figure out how that could happen, how we could make that happen. But I do think something as small as that can make a big difference to a lot of people. And kind of going along with that, this is coming from my own personal experience. If people are wanting to attend meetings, and this doesn't have to just be city council, it could be Parks and Rec meetings, it could be any board meeting that, because most are open to the public, which I think is something that people don't.
They might not realize. Yeah. Planning and zoning is another one.
Right. I think people would probably be interested in attending those meetings. Well, something that's prevented me from being able to attend meetings like that is I have little kids and I don't always have childcare
for at 7:00 p.m. on whatever weeknight that they happen.
Exactly. So I think even just providing some form of like brief childcare during meetings so kids can be able to play. I thought of that because during PTA meetings they provide that, and it's high schoolers that come.
Okay.
And I feel like they're compensated, and somebody listening will know the
Sure.
answer to this.
So chime in.
Probably compensated in some way for that.
And it could even be volunteer hours. Who knows?
Totally, right. I'm not sure how it works, but I'm almost positive that it's high schoolers that will come and provide childcare during the meetings, which is like, yeah, duh. But parents want to be involved, yes, obviously in PTA. And they also want to be involved in other areas. So even just taking that idea that has worked successfully in another organization, our community, we can use it in a different place and a different time to remove some of those barriers.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's one that I hadn't even thought of.
Thinking outside of the box of like, if I wasn't me, what might be keeping me from participating fully? Going back to what I said, because I think most people really do want to. They want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
But life is hard. Like we all have a lot of stuff going on. So it's part of our responsibility as leaders in the community is to make it not so hard to participate. Yeah, so that is really like, that's so much at the forefront of my mind is making those changes. I'm very passionate about that. And kind of going along with that is just helping people know that no matter where they're at in their life, that they are a valuable part of this community. They are a valuable part of the decision-making process. Like they live here, so their voice matters. And I never thought I would be running for a city council at this point in my life. I think because I never saw anybody do it who was a 35-year-old woman who had 3 small kids.
Right.
Like I never saw anybody do that. So it never occurred to me that like I could.
Right. Earlier you were talking about how, you kind of always thought maybe someday.
It would be later.
But later, you even mentioned after your husband retired from being a teacher.
Right.
And that's,
so
later. Right.
Right. Like a decade plus from now. So that's also really important to me. And then it's also, I feel like I'm kind of talking about the same point over and over again, but it really all is just so connected. And it goes back to my strong belief that people want to be involved and they want to be part of the conversation, and they should be. So it's our duty as leaders to make sure that they can. And in order to do that, we need to figure out what's stopping them, break down those barriers, and also make them feel wanted and welcomed and listened to. Something that I noticed that's even a smaller, easier change than just like putting subtitles on a recording of a city council meeting is that just from reading minutes and attending meetings myself, I tend to notice that people, when they show up, they're already fed up. Right? Like they're there because they're already frustrated.
Right. There's something driving them to go out of their way to show up to a meeting. They don't attend all council meetings, and so that they're,
Right. Well, nobody's going to come to all of them, right? But like they're already there because they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
And they're like, listen to me.
Right.
Hello. And they're not sure. They're already at the end of their rope, right? Because I think people don't know that you can just come every time.
Yeah.
And there've been some times that I've come and like not been greeted or not like said hello. So even just like making the environment of a meeting, of board meetings, of council meetings, of whatever, just like making that seem more welcoming. I think I mentioned this when we spoke before, but it's like that meme right now where it's like, I almost forgot this was the whole point. Like this was the whole point, to know people, to lead people, to be able to lead them effectively, you have to know them. So just creating environments where conversations can happen. It's not always going to happen in a formalized setting, right?
Right.
So maybe that's what I'm trying to say. Creating more informal opportunities for city leaders to be engaged in the community. Sometimes that's where people are more comfortable.
Yeah.
They're not going to come to a city council meeting and stand up and talk in front of everybody.
Right.
But maybe before or after, or maybe at yoga in the park, or maybe at wherever, the music in the park, like maybe at one of our parks events, they will see a council member, they'll see the mayor, and that's where they're going to have a meaningful conversation about a concern in the community. So just continuing to be visible and creating more opportunities for connection in that way.
How would you make that happen? Putting you on the spot.
So it's something that I can't speak for other council members or like other leadership, but I think for me, what I would do if I was elected is I would really make it a point to just be visible, right? I've already attended a lot of community events, but making sure that I attend those events and introduce myself to people, right? Like, and make sure that they know who I am, because I'm sure I've been at community events and I don't know that that's a city council person, or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know who they are. Like, even as somebody who's interested in being involved, I might not know the faces of everybody.
Right.
So just for myself, if I was in that position, making sure that I would be introducing myself to people and just giving myself opportunities to know people. And during those more formalized settings, just creating conversations, because like I said, people aren't always going to stand up. They're not always going to write a letter to you. They're not always going to, so you have to kind of take advantage of every opportunity that you can to say, hey, this is me. With, just chat, like just talk, because a lot of times that's how it comes out. And then the next time you see that person, they may be more likely to say, you know what I was thinking. So that would be a priority for me for sure. That's how community happens, right?
You're not wrong.
People, know people. That's the kind of atmosphere where when we know each other, we care about each other, and we care about making decisions that are good for everyone, that benefit everyone.
Right.
It's almost like that's what it's about.
It's almost like that's not the first time you've said that, right? That's the whole point. Yeah.
Yeah, so really, like, I know that was like very roundabout, but really getting rid of the barriers to participation and then just creating a more personable leadership. Yeah.
So we've talked about what you would say the issues are facing the community that are on people's minds and that are most important to you. So I'm going to shift it to a more positive vibe, perhaps. And I don't think that was negative per se, but I think it's important for people to also hear what you think are the biggest strengths about Olmsted Falls. So what are, in your mind, the three biggest strengths or positive elements about living in Olmsted Falls?
Yeah, these are things that we've definitely like touched on earlier as well, but I think the charm of our city, like the historic charm of our city, that's truly unique on the west side.
Yeah.
You don't see a lot of the collection of historical buildings, especially that we have here in Grand Pacific Junction, and just how the community really invests in that and values it. So I think that's something that's totally unique. Like, we can't speak about what is great about Olmsted Falls without speaking about the history of the town.
We have a historic district. It is maintained. Yep. It is walkable. Most of the shop fronts are open. We have the parks right next to it with the covered bridge. Like, people know that and they go to it and they take advantage of it. And that's
it's recognizable. And that was the next thing I was going to say, was like our green spaces in our city, and especially the falls and our parks are beautiful. Like, we really have great assets there. And I think they're well utilized. We have playgrounds, we have the sledding, like we love the sledding hill
at East River Park. Yeah.
Yeah, I think everybody has some kind of a memory of being at the falls too, and whatever, causing trouble. Like, I said I didn't spend a lot of time here when I was younger, but I definitely was at the falls a little bit when I was younger. And just those spaces. That's another thing that's really unique about Olmsted Falls on the west side as well, like having the river access, having that proximity to the water right there, and our gazebo that's beautiful, and spaces for gatherings, or different pavilions and things like that. So I think our green spaces are great especially for the size of our city. Like, we're not huge. We have a lot of wonderful outdoor resources. And I could talk about school all day, but I really think, like, that's the heart of our community. That's what brings so many people to Olmsted Falls, is the school system. A lot of times that's like the only way that people will get plugged into anything sort of like city related, even though schools are a different entity, but community wide, that's the way, that's their way in, that's their way that they are involved, that's their way that they are connected. And the schools do so much for our city too, outside of just educating the kids, right? There's community events and all the football games, there's whatever, even just the beautiful new stadium, there's so many events that have been there, theater, that's something that like the community can be so engaged in. Yeah, I could talk about that all day.
But it's worth pointing out, right?
Yeah.
The schools are a part of the community. Just try driving down Bagley Road during a football game.
Or any
morning of the week. Yeah. Absolutely. So to recap that one, the three biggest strengths, paraphrasing, right? We have the historic nature of our town and the Grand Pacific Junction, and how accessible all that is and how unique it is especially for the west side of our broader area, we have the parks and green spaces, number two. They're beautiful. They're great. People use them. I know personally, I rarely go to one of those and there's not somebody else there, which is great.
Usually somebody that I know. Not
Which is
like
cool.
super popular, but like.
No, but that's cool.
I'm always seeing somebody I know. Yeah, we're always running into people that you know. And...
Yeah, I mean, not to shift gears to talking about me, right? But one of the things I loved the most about the college I went to was that I could walk anywhere and see somebody I knew, and that was cool. It was a more intimate, community-focused school. But that's also something that I really enjoyed when I was growing up about being in band or about being in scouts, was because those things made a smaller, more intimate community for me. And I feel that same thing here too. And that's why this is my favorite place I've lived in my adulthood, is because I can also bump into people I know very easily.
Totally. That was actually something when Eric and I were deciding where we wanted to live when we got married. And he had already gotten the job teaching at Olmsted Falls. Okay. And we were like, okay, where are we going to buy our house? Where do we want to live? Yeah. And it was a decision that was like, Eric was like, okay, do I want to run into students everywhere, right, when I'm grocery shopping, when I'm, at dinner, when I'm riding my bike around, when I, just whatever, out and about living my life. And he ultimately decided, yeah. And like, it wouldn't be terrible. But at the time we thought, okay, like that would be fine. But I think living it out for 12 years now, it truly has been not just fine. It's been great because it's a beautiful thing to live and work and raise your kids all in one place. It's never something I've thought that I was going to do in my life, be so invested in one community. But I'm really grateful that that's how it ended up, because it's the best way that I know how to make change and how to help make the world the place that I think it can and should be, is to put everything into here, right? Put everything into this place. So, I mean, I'm all in, right? Our whole family is all in. Everything is here. Yeah. So I think that was a really, ended up being a much more beautiful decision than we even anticipated it to be. I mean, sure, sometimes you see somebody roasted at 6 a.m. that he wasn't expecting to, and he's wearing his pajamas. But like, who cares?
But that's okay. Then they see the human side of Mr. Bartkowski, right? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, I was walking out of Drug Mart a couple weeks ago, and I was by myself, and there was a group of, they had been like freshmen or 8th grade girls or whatever. Yeah. And I hear from like across the parking lot, Mrs. B! And I don't know who these girls are. And I was just like, hey. I was there, and I was like, yeah. But it was cool, and it was like, they were excited to see me, and I was excited to see them. It's like, okay, like, we're here. That makes you feel like I belong here. It's cool.
So, last question that I had prepared. Yeah. If you were to picture Olmsted Falls as the best possible version of itself, what would you see differently about that version of Olmsted Falls relative to today?
I don't know. I don't really think it's up to me alone what to say needs to happen in the city. But the thing that I think needs to change in order to get there is for every person who wants to have a say to be able, like, they can feel like they can have a say. So just residents really feeling empowered, so they want to and they're able to have their voice be heard. So that means they know how to be engaged with the decision-making process. They feel like they are welcome and wanted to be a part of the decision-making process in whatever capacity and whatever decision it is, and that they're able to. That's really the biggest thing that I see. I see people yelling. Now, I'm not blaming anyone for that, because they feel frustrated and they get to the point where they feel like I'm not being listened to. And that just, it does not contribute to a collaborative decision-making process and a collaborative environment. I think making people feel like they are welcome and wanted and able to be a part of government processes is the way forward. And I just see that we can improve that. That would be my biggest priority. And now I don't know what those changes or what the decisions ultimately will be. And that's not up to me, and it's not up to council alone. That's up to the community. So just involving residents more.
Yeah. And I mean, that's that's been a running theme of our conversation.
Yeah.
Right.
That's the foundation, I think.
Yeah. It's why you're here. Yeah.
For sure. And I think that's why I love this podcast going forward. Like, I think it could be such a powerful tool in that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, no, I think it's amazing because it's like we were saying, everybody learns and engages in different ways. Some people listen to podcasts.
Right. Yeah.
Some people watch YouTube videos, or some people are on Facebook, or some people, just really diversifying the way that the information is put out there.
Exactly.
Can be a powerful tool.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And that's, we live in a small town where we don't have our different community voices, going on TV and being interviewed, or,
right, this isn't Pawnee.
Right. It's not Pawnee, Indiana from Parks and Recreation, right? Where they magically have their own dedicated TV station, even though they're a small town in Indiana. No, so I mean, I hope this also encourages that as well, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
What else do you want to say about you, yourself, your candidacy? What else do you want people to know?
I touched on this a little bit before, but I think it's really relevant because Olmsted Falls is made up of young families a lot, right? There's all different, of course, we said there's all different age groups and socioeconomic statuses and all that, but we have a lot of families and a lot of parents. And I really feel strongly that being a parent for 10 years has helped me learn skills that will be valuable as a member of City Council. And I want parents in our community to know that being a parent should not and is not a barrier or a hindrance to being involved in community, to being involved in government decision making, to be involved in change making, however you want to. Having 3 kids, I deeply understand how to listen to differing viewpoints, right? And negotiate solutions that will be relatively acceptable to all parties, and how to solve problems on the fly, and how to plan for things in advance, how to advocate for people, how to be patient. And I know that parents, all kinds of parents, have those skills as well. And so I would hope that just being only the second female member of potentially the second female member that's on council.
Currently, at least.
Yeah, not ever, but currently. And having been, I don't think I mentioned that I've been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. So coming out of being a stay-at-home mom for a decade, it's scary to do something else. But I want people to know that caregivers and parents, not only can they be in leadership roles, but they should be in leadership roles, especially in a community that is made up so heavily of families and people who are caregivers and parents. So I would hope to bring that perspective to council and to our city leadership, because I think it's a valuable one.
Logistically then, where are we at? What's next for your candidacy?
Yes, so I'm in the middle of getting signatures to be on the ballot. So currently it's only June, so I have till August. So as soon as humanly possible, I am going to be submitting that, and then I'll be officially on the ballot. Yeah, I don't have like a lot to share. Like, I can't be like, click on this link to donate. I'm not there.
We're at the cutting edge of this development. Yeah,
right. We're just starting out, but yeah, then November is when it all goes down.
And again, you're running in Ward 2. Yes. So if you are listening and you are in Ward 2 and you want to talk more with Jacklyn, you can email her at jbartkowskiward2 at gmail.com. That's spelled JBartkowskiward, the number 2 at gmail.com. Jacklyn, thank you so much for having this conversation with me, helping me get my podcast off the ground.
I'm at the cutting edge of the podcast, really. Yes, is what it is.
We're helping each other. Yeah. But thank you again.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited.
My vision is for people to get a chance to hear from somebody that they would see on a ballot. For me, my wife and I have a running joke that when we see all the list of the judges, like, do we even vote? Like, who are all these names? It's just a name on a ballot. But here in a small town, we can make that known. We can make it so you see the name and you know who that is. And that's something that I want to do.
In the size of this community, it should not be hard to be able to understand who you're voting for. And I think hopefully people should come on the podcast, and then that'd be a great way for people to understand and get to know who they're actually voting for.
Well, with that,
Thank
we
you.
will end. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the first episode of Olmsted Overheard. I hope you enjoyed it and found it to be a valuable listen. If you have topics you want me to discuss, reach out. Until next time, on Olmsted Overheard.